The house lay in silence beneath the velvet dark of night. Outside, the street lamps glowed faintly, their amber halos falling across quiet lawns and parked cars, while the wind stirred only the faintest whisper through the trees. Inside, the rhythm of life slowed to a hush. The children were asleep upstairs, their rooms dim but warm, the faint sound of steady breathing drifting through half-open doors. In the living room, a lamp cast its soft circle of light across the pages of a book. A mother turned them slowly, her eyes growing heavy. In the kitchen, the last of the dishes from dinner dried neatly in the rack, the scent of soap and cooked food lingering faintly in the air. From the hallway, the ticking of a clock marked the hours with gentle precision. The father, tired from the day's work, had already shut off the television and was checking the locks on the doors, moving with the slow, habitual motions of someone who had done this countless nights before. He yawned, glancing toward the stairs, thinking of the comfort of his bed. Even the cat seemed at peace at first. A gray tabby curled on the rug near the lamp, paws tucked beneath its body, tail wrapped neatly around its side. Its eyes were half-lidded, catching the glow of the light like twin pieces of polished glass. Every so often, it twitched an ear or shifted its weight, but it seemed content, another small piece of the house's nightly rhythm. Everything was as it should be, safe, calm, ordinary, a night like any other. And yet, in the walls of the house, behind the plaster and paint, something else stirred. Wires stretched taut through beams hummed faintly, carrying the silent current that powered the lamps and clocks. Where insulation had frayed, tiny sparks waited, flickering unseen, ready to leap if given a chance. The danger was invisible, buried just out of sight. No human eye noticed, no ear caught its whisper. But the cat would. The tabby lifted its head suddenly, ears twitching at a sound no one else seemed to hear. Its eyes narrowed, glowing faintly in the lamplight as it stared toward the far wall of the hallway. For a moment the cat was still, its body tense, nose quivering as though it smelled something faint but unfamiliar. The mother barely noticed. She turned another page, lost in the drifting haze of sleepiness. The father moved upstairs, footsteps fading as he checked on the children. To them, nothing was amiss. The house was quiet, warm, and ordinary, but the cat rose from the rug with deliberate slowness, paws pressing silently against the carpet. Its tail flicked once, sharp and restless. Then it padded to the hallway wall, lowering its head close to the baseboard. For a moment it listened, one paw lifted in hesitation. There it was again. A faint pop, a soft crackle, so subtle it might have been mistaken for the sigh of the house settling. The cat's ears twitched back sharply. It pressed its nose closer, whiskers brushing the wall, and gave a low, questioning meow. No response came, only silence. Still, the animal did not leave. It sat there stiff with unease, eyes fixed on the plaster as if it could see through it. The mother noticed then, glancing over the edge of her book. "What are you doing?" she asked softly, but with no real concern. Cats were curious by nature. She smiled faintly and went back to her reading. The tabby remained by the wall, crouched low now, tail swishing back and forth like a pendulum. It shifted its paws, pressing them against the paint as though testing, and let out a sharper cry. When no one came, it extended one claw and scraped the wall once, testing. Then again, louder. Something behind that surface had caught its attention, and it was not about to let it go. The scratching began softly, just the faint rasp of claws against paint. At first it was easy to dismiss, a quirk of a restless pet in the quiet hours of the night. But the sound persisted, steady and deliberate, as if the cat were digging for something buried inside the wall itself. The mother sighed, lowering her book. "Not now," she murmured, trying to coax the animal away. But when she clapped her hands gently, the tabby only glanced back, pupils wide and unblinking, before returning to its task. Its claws scraped harder, a harsh rasp that echoed down the hallway. Upstairs, the father paused, frowning as the sound reached him. It was too insistent to ignore. He leaned over the stair railing. "What's gotten into her?" he called. The mother shrugged, though unease flickered briefly across her face. "She won't stop. It's like she hears something." The cat let out a sharp yowl, then resumed its assault on the plaster. It pressed its entire weight into the motion, shoulders bunching with effort, claws dragging downward in long, urgent strokes. Paint flecked under its paws, tiny scratches marring the once smooth surface. When the mother finally stood and approached, the animal whipped its head toward her with a fierce cry, tail lashing before turning back to the wall. It dug faster, more frantically, its breath quick and shallow. The noise filled the hall, louder than seemed possible from such a small body. The father descended the stairs, irritation in his step, but stopped halfway down when he saw the cat's posture, rigid, alert, eyes fixed unblinking on the wall, as if it hid a predator. It was not play, it was alarm. And in the hush between scratches, if one listened closely, there was something else. A faint, irregular crackle, like the brittle snap of dry leaves underfoot. The cat heard it. The cat understood danger where humans hesitated, and it would not be ignored. The father stepped down into the hallway, his brow furrowed. The cat's cries and relentless scratching made the quiet house feel strangely tense, every stroke of claw echoing louder than it should. He crouched beside the animal, pressing a hand gently to its back. The cat arched away, refusing comfort, its body coiled tight with agitation. "Easy now," he muttered, but even as he spoke, he heard it, faint, beneath the animal's racket. A dry, irregular population, then another, like a tiny fire trying to breathe inside the wall. He froze, his hand hovering in the air. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his voice sharp now. The mother, who had drawn closer with unease, frowned. "Hear what?" "Shh." He leaned in, pressing his ear against the plaster. For a moment there was only silence, then a faint crackle, almost hidden under the ticking of the clock. His eyes widened. "That!" The mother's face drained of color. She stepped back, glancing toward the lamp, the wires, the neat order of the house around them. "Is it electricity?" The cat let out another yowl, pawing furiously at the exact spot where the sound whispered through. The wall seemed ordinary, painted a soft cream, but now it carried an invisible menace. The father straightened, tension pulling at his shoulders. "Something's wrong in there," he said firmly. "Something's sparking." The mother swallowed hard. A memory surfaced, news of a neighbor's house fire, how it had started in the walls, spreading silently before anyone could react. She looked at the cat, its eyes blazing with urgency, and shivered. The room felt different now, as though the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for what came next. For the first time, they realized the animal hadn't been restless. It had been warning them. The father grabbed the lamp from the side table and switched it off, plunging the hallway into dimness. For a moment, the only light came from the faint glow of the street lamps through the curtains and the blinking red digits of the clock on the wall. He motioned for silence. The cat crouched low, ears pressed flat, tail lashing, its body angled toward the wall with unblinking focus. The faint crackle came again, sharper this time, followed by a dry hiss that made the hair rise on the back of the father's neck. Then, in the half-dark, it happened. A tiny spark flickered through a hairline crack in the plaster. Blue-white, brief as a heartbeat, but unmistakable. It sizzled and vanished, leaving behind the faint smell of something scorched. The mother clapped a hand to her mouth. "Oh my God!" Another spark danced, brighter now, crawling along the seam where the baseboard met the wall. The hiss grew louder, like an angry insect trapped behind the plaster, searching for air. The father jerked back, heart pounding. "It's the wiring." Its burning through his voice shook with urgency. "Get the kids! Now!" The mother ran upstairs, her footsteps sharp against the silence. The children stirred in confusion as she gathered them, her voice trembling but firm. Down below, the cat kept scratching furiously at the wall, as if determined to drag every hidden danger into the open before it was too late. The father raced to the breaker box, fumbling with the switches until the entire house went dark. The hum of appliances ceased, leaving only the ragged sound of breathing and the distant crackle inside the wall. Even without power, the smell lingered, sharp and acrid. The danger wasn't gone. The sparks had already found a nest. The cat gave one last furious swipe, then sat back on its haunches, panting, eyes locked on the wall as if daring it to betray the house again. For the first time that night, the humans understood just how close they had come to disaster. The breaker had killed the lights, but unease clung to the air like smoke. The faint odor of burning insulation seeped from the wall, acrid and bitter, warning of how close the danger truly lay. The father's pulse hammered in his ears as he shouted toward the stairwell, "Everyone out! Now!" The mother hurried the children down, clutching them tightly to her sides. Their sleepy faces turned to fear when they smelled the sharp tang of something scorched. She ushered them toward the door, her voice low but urgent. "Shoes on, coats, hurry." The father dialed the emergency number with trembling hands, his words quick and clipped as he explained. Faulty wiring, sparks in the wall, danger of fire. The dispatcher's calm instructions steadied him only slightly. Stay outside, keep water nearby, wait for the crew. But he couldn't just stand idle. He grabbed a bucket, filled it at the sink, and splashed water along the baseboards near the spot where the sparks had shown, soaking the wood, darkening the carpet. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it might keep flames from catching if the worst happened before help arrived. The cat hadn't moved far. It crouched in the shadows of the hallway, eyes still fixed on the wall. Its sides rose and fell quickly, fur bristling as though it, too, smelled the fire waiting inside. Every so often it gave a sharp cry, a note of urgency that cut through the chaos, louder than the storm of footsteps and orders. The family spilled out onto the lawn, barefoot children clutching their mother's robe, shivering in the night air. The father followed, bucket still in hand, but his eyes never left the upstairs windows, half expecting to see them glow with a light far more dangerous than any lamp. Minutes dragged like hours. The house groaned faintly as it settled into silence, but the threat remained, hidden, smoldering, waiting. Then, at last, came the wail of sirens, growing louder, red lights flashing across the quiet street. Neighbors peeked from their windows, murmuring as the fire crew pulled up in a rush. And through it all, the cat sat in the doorway, tail wrapped tight around its body, staring into the house as though guarding it until human hands could finish what it had begun. The firefighters moved swiftly, hauling coils of hose and heavy tools through the door. Flashlights cut sharp beams across the darkened rooms as they pressed ears to walls, tested for heat, and pried away sections of plaster. It didn't take long to find the danger. Behind the wall where the cat had scratched, a cluster of wires lay blackened, their insulation melted into sticky clumps. Char marks spread outward, proof that sparks had already bitten at the wood framing. Another hour, perhaps even less, and the house would have erupted in flames. "Lucky you caught it when you did," one of the men said, shaking his head. "This was ready to go up." The father swallowed hard, his hand resting on the doorway as relief washed over him. The mother hugged the children close, her eyes glistening as she whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. On the rug nearby, the cat sat calmly now. Its fur still bristled, but its eyes half-lidded, as though the weight of its warning had finally lifted. The firefighters glanced at it curiously, and the father gave a weak laugh. "It wasn't me who caught it," he admitted. "It was her." The men followed his nod toward the animal. One of them let out a low whistle. "Smart cat," he said simply. The children crowded around, petting the tabby's damp fur with trembling hands, whispering words of comfort. The cat leaned into their touch, purring softly, a steady rumble that filled the silence where fear had been only moments before. By the time the crew packed up and left, the house was safe again, patched, dark, and damp from water, but still standing. The neighbors had drifted back to bed, the sirens faded, and the street was quiet once more. Inside, the family gathered in the living room, blankets draped around their shoulders. The father looked at the scratched wall, the gouges of claw marks etched deep into the plaster, and felt a chill. Those frantic lines were more than damage. They were a shield. He reached down and lifted the cat gently into his lap, stroking the worn fur. "Our guardian," he murmured. "You saved us." From that night on, the animal was no longer just a pet. It was the silent watchman of the house, the one who had heard danger whispering behind the walls when no one else could. And whenever the cat scratched at a door or stared too long into a corner, the family never ignored it again.